You know, I don't know if you guys ever experienced this when Joe Biden was president, but there used to be days where he'd appear older than usual or maybe a little bit slower than usual. And of course, he was an old man with his age showing on a daily basis, but there really used to be some days where he kind of appeared more fragile. And so you'd kind of be crossing your fingers hoping that he would make it through whatever event he had going on without any slip-ups or without any stumbles. And although this is not something that happened all the time with Joe Biden, every time Donald Trump travels out of this country to some world event, this feeling comes rushing back to me because Donald Trump is such an incompetent buffoon who just kind of embarrasses the United States every time he opens his mouth out there. And he recently traveled out to the NATO summit, and that feeling was alive and well. Here he is saying that, yeah, we made a deal with Ukraine to take their land. If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
We cannot afford to be dependent on foreign adversaries for critical minerals. And as you know, we made a deal with Ukraine to take a vast amount of the land they have for minerals. We need it.
Yeah, guys, we need it. We need Ukraine's minerals, and we're going to go ahead and extort them while they're in the middle of fighting a war against a tyrannical Putin. And we made a deal. We just made a deal. No big deal, guys. We're going to take vast swaths of their land. We're going to mine it for minerals, and maybe we'll give Ukraine some of it, but we're going to do all of this while they're fighting a war. It just feels so gross. And I know that there is some, mutual beneficial relationship here to be had. But the way Donald Trump goes about it, it's just so gross. And then to just come out and announce it while he's at the NATO summit, it just feels wrong. It just feels wrong. It feels like he's shaking down one of our allies. Here he goes on about how they feel like warriors, and maybe that we should rename the Secretary of Defense.
I have, as you know, Marco Rubio with me and Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State and Secretary of War. Should we say Secretary? It used to be called Secretary of War. Maybe for a couple of weeks we'll call it that because we feel like warriors. Used to be called Secretary of War. In fact, if you look at the old building next to the White House, you can see where it used to be Secretary of War. Then we became politically correct, and they called it Secretary of Defense. I don't know, maybe we'll have to start thinking about changing it, but we feel that way.
We feel like warriors, guys. Break out the G.I. Joes. Let's play together with toys. I mean, it's it's just so pathetic. We may have renamed Secretary of War to Secretary of Defense because maybe we weren't fighting wars every single goddamn day. Does Donald Trump ever think about any of this before he opens his mouth? Or does he just want to feel like a teenage boy again who is playing with his toys? Or I don't even know. I just don't even know what the thought process is here. And then you got Pete Hegseth in the background smiling away like, oh yeah, let's rename me to the Secretary of War, guys. It's going to be great because we're warriors. Warriors, baby, warriors. Why does he do this? I mean, you're at the NATO summit. We have a whole bunch of different member states to talk to. And you're up there talking about renaming the Secretary of Defense to the Secretary of War because you feel like warriors. What is going on? He goes on to literally make fun of CNN's Kaitlin Collins for asking a question.
Oh, fake news CNN? Oh, yeah, here we go. Wait till you hear this question. You should really say how great our soldiers and our warriors are.
I think everyone appreciates our soldiers and our warriors. I do have two questions for you, Mr. President. You just cited Israeli intelligence on these attacks. Earlier, you said U.S. intelligence was inconclusive. Are you relying on Israeli intelligence for your assessment of the impact of the strikes?
No, this is also Iran made the statement. And it's also, if you read the document that was given, that Pete can talk about if you'd like, the document said it could be very severe damage, but they didn't take that. They said it could be limited or it could be very severe. They really didn't know other than to say it could be limited or it could be very, very severe.
It could be limited, guys, or it could be very severe, or it could be limited, or it could be very severe. Okay, Donnie boy, we got you. It could be limited or it could be severe. Now, Kaitlin Collins just handles this like a champ. Of course, when news agencies come out and they are reporting the facts on the ground as we currently know them, that does not mean that we are somehow trying to demean the military. And this is something that we've covered in previous videos. Donald Trump is trying to make it out like the New York Times and MSNBC and CNN, them reporting the facts on the ground saying that this Iran strike maybe wasn't as successful as Donald Trump claimed it to be. That doesn't just mean that they're trying to demean the military. In fact, it has nothing to do with the military at all. We are fighting against Donald Trump's claims that this completely annihilated their nuclear program like he claimed. And as we've talked about in previous videos as well, the military executed their mission to precision. They did an excellent job. They carried out exactly what they needed to do. It was an impressive mission. And just because CNN and other mainstream media outlets are coming out and reporting that the Iran strike doesn't appear to have completely obliterated the nuclear facility and the nuclear program, Donald Trump is up in arms and continues to attack them because their set of facts doesn't work in to his set of reality. It's an absolute shame. Like, I can see him doing this stuff at home. Sure, it's still shitty then, and he shouldn't do that. But when you're on the world stage, when you're in front of the world, and you're acting like a petulant man baby, it is just that much more embarrassing. Then he goes on to attack Spain, which is a member to NATO.
Question on Spain. Are you satisfied with today?
Oh, I think Spain's terrible what they've done. No, I do. They're the only country that won't pay the full up. They want to stay at 2%. I think it's terrible. And, you know, they're doing very well. The economy is very well. And that economy could be blown right out of the water with something bad happening. You know, Spain is the only country that... Are you from Spain?
Yeah.
Good, congratulations. You're the only country that is not paying. I don't know what the problem is. I think it's too bad. So we'll make it up. You know what we're going to do? We're negotiating with Spain on a trade deal. We're going to make them pay twice as much. And I'm actually serious about that. We're going to make Spain... I like Spain. I have so many people from Spain that it's a great place and they're great people.
This is just unnecessary. So it was recently announced that NATO members are going to increase their spending from 2% up to 5% by the year 2035. And I think it was Spain and maybe another country that got exemptions from that. And because Donald Trump doesn't like that, he's attacking the reporter who is trying to ask a question. It is just so damn childish. If Donald Trump has a problem with Spain not wanting to go up to 5%, then he can have those diplomatic conversations behind closed doors. But to just go on the attack against a reporter from Spain, it's insane. You're the president of the United States, dude. This reporter has no skin in the game. She's not the one making decisions for her country. And Donald Trump later goes on to say, well, you should go back to your country and you should tell them that they need to pay, guys. I mean, Donald Trump is just so damn embarrassing. Then this next clip is actually pretty good because somebody confronts him to his face. He always said that he was going to end the war between Ukraine and Russia on day one. But that's not where we are today, and he gets called out for that.
How are you?
You once said that you would end the Ukraine war in 24 hours. You later said you said that sarcastically.
Well, of course it was sarcastic.
But you've now been in office for 5 months and 5 days. Why have you not been able to end the Ukraine war?
Because it's more difficult than people would have any idea. Vladimir Putin has been more difficult. Frankly, I had some problems with Zelensky. You may have read about him. And it's been more difficult than other wars. I mean, look, we just ended a war in 12 days that was simmering for 30 years, frankly. We ended Rwanda and the Congo. It's coming to sign the documents. We've already signed basic documents, but they're coming, I think, to the White House on Friday. We ended Serbia was going to go at it. But maybe the most important of all, India and Pakistan.
Donald Trump didn't have anything to do with India and Pakistan. He continues to tout this lie that he is somehow some master negotiator and he was able to bring peace between India and Pakistan. But all reporting suggests that that is not even close to being true. And he has such a grandiose vision of himself. People before the election were saying, you're not going to be able to come in on day one and end the war between Russia and Ukraine. That is just a foolish thought. It is something stupid to think because these situations are obviously more complex. So everybody was telling Donald Trump that this is not how things are going to work. But he kept on making the promise anyway. He kept on making the promise to the MAGA base. He said he was going to end the war on day one. And here this reporter is calling him out saying, yo, bro, it's been 5 months. The war is still going on. And then he has the nerve to say, of course I was being sarcastic, guys. Putin, he's just being a little bit more difficult than I anticipated. Yeah, no shit, Donnie boy. That's what everybody was trying to tell you, that Russia had plans to continue to take over Ukraine if they were able to. I mean, it's just so embarrassing, man. I'll go ahead and show you this one last clip because I found this completely strange. Donald Trump literally turns around and taps Pete Hegseth in so he can go on the attack against the mainstream media as well.
Yeah. There's a reason the president calls out fake news for what it is. These pilots, these refuelers, these fighters, these air defenders, the skill and the courage it took to go into enemy territory flying 36 hours on behalf of the American people and the world to take out a nuclear program is beyond what anyone in this audience can fathom. And then the instinct of CNN, the instinct of the New York Times is to try to find a way to spin it for their own political reasons, to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak.
Pete Hegseth is a piece of shit. Nobody's trying to spin it. Nobody's trying to spin it, Pete. Their job is to report the facts on the ground. And it was your guys' fault for coming out just hours after the attack and claiming it was a complete victory, that we completely annihilated the nuclear program. It was your guys' fault to come out and make that announcement. And now that we have intelligence showing that the attack wasn't as successful as as Donald Trump hoped it would be, now you're going on the attack against the mainstream media, the CNNs of the world, the MSNBCs, the New York Times, and trying to say, oh, they're just trying to make Daddy Trump look bad. They're trying to spin it up, guys. God, Pete Hegseth is a true piece of shit. And I really like, he looks back to make sure that he's getting Daddy Trump's approval. Just a weak and feckless man. Nobody is trying to demean the military, and I bet if I went and read every single article from CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, they're not in there trying to bash our military. We have one of the greatest fighting forces that has ever been established on Earth in the history of humans. Nobody is denying that. And like we have said before, the mission was carried out successfully to precision. The mission itself was impressive. That doesn't mean that the objective of the mission was actually accomplished. And that is not the military's fault if it wasn't accomplished. They hit their targets the way that they were supposed to. They carried it out flawlessly. And now Donald Trump came out hours afterward claiming, mission accomplished, baby. We did it. We totally annihilated Iran nuclear program. We totally obliterated their nuclear facilities. He could have just waited. They all could have just waited. And now we have the Pentagon's own intelligence department coming out and saying in preliminary reports that it doesn't look like it was a complete loss for Iran, which means they might be able to pick up and rebuild, and maybe we only set them back for months at a time. We just don't know the full picture yet. And like I said in previous videos, we need to wait for more information to come in. We need to get a better on-the-ground assessment. We need to wait for more intelligence to get a better picture as to the true damage that Iran occurred. But it's not the media's fault for reporting the facts as we have them right now. So this was Donald Trump, guys. He's out on the world stage. He's at the NATO summit. He's given time to speak at the NATO conference, and he's standing up there. He's talking about how we made a deal to take, land from Ukraine so we can get all their minerals. He's out there attacking the press. He even mentioned in a clip we didn't play, he brought up us dropping a nuke on Japan in World War II as though his strike on Iran was somehow comparable to that. I mean, again, that feeling came rushing back as soon as I heard that Donald Trump was traveling out of the world to some world event. And, I wasn't let down. Donald Trump opened his mouth and he embarrassed the United States yet again. So I will leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against the right-wing media ecosystem that just kind of launders all of this disastrous behavior for the Trump administration day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please remember to smash that subscribe button. Of course, that is free. And if you guys want to see Donald Trump's first press conference that he gave, or at least the first one that I saw when he traveled to this NATO summit, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now, because he is just crashing out that the facts on the ground do not align with his conspiratorial worldview. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.